Yay, everyone. Hi. We're going to just wait for a sec. Ain't no debating on it. I'm still levitated, I'm heavily medicated. Ironic, I gave him love and they end up hating on me. She told me she loved me and she been waiting. Been fighting hard for your love and I'm running thin on my patience. Needed someone to hug, even took it back to the basics. You see what you got me out here doing? Might have threw me off, but can't nobody stop the movement. Let's go, left foot, right. Hi, everyone. Good morning. We're just going to wait maybe like one more minute to get started. I know that it's a Friday, and for me, that generally means no meetings, no calls, but here we are. Hi, Lindsay. You look ready to go. But you all know my love language is connections and finding out you're in the same place. But today, what I want to know is, who are you? Where are you? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you using LinkedIn? 10 being I'm an all-star, I'm Lindsay, I could teach this presentation, and 1 is like I never even open the application. So if you could go ahead and put that in the chat while we are waiting. I'm gonna turn some music back on, and I'm just gonna make sure everything is good, and then we will begin. All right, we got Texas, we've got Atlanta. I'm in Southern California. Lindsay, where do you hail from? I don't even know.
I'm in Southern California as well. I'm actually in Redondo Beach.
Sorry?
I'm in Redondo Beach.
Oh, you are? That's right. That's right. We are close. We are close to one another. Okay, so we've got a little bit of West Coast lean. We've got, okay, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Utah. There's Jennifer in Louisiana. I always think about her right now because I'm guessing it's a little hot. And then we've got all the way up in Boston. Okay, great. Super great. And let's see, I see some 6s, which I have to say, I'm impressed with a 6. I really am. I would not give myself a 6. Oh, Kelly says she's 7. Oh my goodness. That's amazing. Well, as people just keep coming on, I just wanted to welcome everyone. If you haven't been to a session with me, I'm Jess Campbell. I'm the founder of Out in the Boons. And my mission is to help nonprofit fundraisers raise more money in person and online. And what makes me a little bit different from some of the other coaches and consultants out there is I really love to teach the how. In my opinion, you already know why you need to raise more money for your nonprofit, but I see a lot of nonprofit fundraisers getting stuck with how. How do I market myself? How do I get new leads? How do I follow through? How do I make the ask? How do I run the event? And so I am obsessed with teaching step-by-step kind of roadmap style how-tos. And so this is a perfect example of that style, because Lindsay is here to teach us all about LinkedIn. And if you guys saw my email this morning, you saw that I call LinkedIn the sleeping giants of social media. And I'm sure Lindsay will actually share like some statistics about reach and stuff compared to Facebook and Instagram and all the other things we like to use. And so without further ado, I wanted to introduce Miss Lindsay here, our LinkedIn expert. I will call out Lindsay generally works with online entrepreneurs and people in the business space. And so this is a little bit different, but not really, because we're all trying to get new clients, AKA new donors. We're all trying to build credibility and authority. And so if she uses some language that is a little bit different from our world, that's why, but same rules apply. And so I want you to ask any questions you want as we go. I can help monitor the chat. I actually already have a list of questions because, like I said, I am not giving myself anywhere near a 6 on LinkedIn. And I will let you, Lindsay, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jess. Thank you so much for having me. This is so awesome. Nonprofits are certainly near and dear to my heart. And so I am so honored just to be here and share with you guys about really how to use this, I would say, an untapped tool for your nonprofits. So Jess is right. I normally teach LinkedIn from more of a leads and sales perspective, but to me, that is no different than you getting out and getting donations, you finding board members, you finding volunteers for your events. It's all the same, right? We're still selling our nonprofit and our mission to others to get them to buy into what we're doing. And so she's right. There might be some terminology, and if I can remember, I will certainly try to change that out. But I definitely am prepared to talk to you guys more about this in the sense of using this for your nonprofit. I actually want to make sure that you guys all there's a free guide that I have for you. It's called a LinkedIn Content Playbook. We're certainly going to cover content today, but I want to make sure you have this because if you're using other social platforms for your nonprofit, there is a way for you to seamlessly repurpose your content for LinkedIn so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to spend more time posting content, and really you can start leveraging the platform to truly connect and have genuine, authentic conversations with your ideal donors, volunteers, board members, and those things. So get the guide as soon as you can because we'll talk about content here in a little bit. It'll be good for you to have it up on your screen. Now, I want to share with you guys a few stats about LinkedIn, and maybe you haven't thought about this yet as it relates to LinkedIn, but there are 61 million LinkedIn users, there are 750 million users on LinkedIn, but 61 million users are senior level influencers and 40 million are in decision-making positions. And to me, when we're talking about getting, big ticket donations and things like that, these are the people that we truly want to connect with, network with, and have conversations. I mean, I like to think of these numbers even in a conservative space. Let's say you connect with 100 of these senior level influencers or decision makers. That's 100 ideal donors, or I would say ideal clients in your world, that you can certainly tap into for resources. And that's, 100 of them. That would be incredible, right? So those are amazing numbers for us to consider as we're thinking about using this tool in this way. The other thing I love to tell people is that 44% of LinkedIn members make over $75,000 a year. And because of that, truly what that means to you is you have access to a web audience that is the highest paying web audience out there, higher than Twitter, higher than Facebook. So this is really a place where we need to be. And I say we, I really mean you, as you're building out these networks and network and connections for your nonprofit. It's certainly a great place to build awareness as well for, like I said, your mission, your vision, what's going on in your nonprofit, how you're affecting and really changing the world, how you're bringing more impact through your nonprofit. Just to give you a little bit of background about myself, why I'm here, who I am. Hi, my name is Lindsay Mitrosilis. I'm a LinkedIn expert and mentor for impact-driven business owners, nonprofit owners such as yourself, and really hoping that you can take this information to level up and use LinkedIn to create greater awareness and impact for your business. So I actually started in the staffing industry 10 years ago. I was in the sales side of the recruiting space. So if you're familiar at all with that industry, it's extremely cutthroat. There's a lot of rules and regulations for salespeople as to how we can get in front of our ideal clients. These would be, directors and VPs at high level companies. I specifically focused on the tech world. I was up in Silicon Valley. So it was really difficult to get into places like Oracle, Cisco, VMware, Google, Facebook. We had to get very creative. We couldn't just cold call a manager. We couldn't just knock on their door and ask for their business. We had to get really strategic in how we did that. And so I leveraged LinkedIn starting 10 years ago as a way to get in front of these ideal clients and build a relationship with them, network, and all those things in order to win their business. And that is truly what we're going to learn how to do today by leveraging this tool. So fast forward to COVID, everyone had to pivot, everyone had to shift. Someone asked if I could help entrepreneurs, online business owners use the tool to find more leads and sales. And I was like, yeah, I do it all the time. So fast forward to last October, I left my corporate job, went full-time in my business, and here we are. So I'm so honored and excited to share all of this information with you guys. I'm really excited to hear how this training is going to affect you in the weeks and months to come as you are, carrying out the rest of your goals for 2021. A few other things I want to share with you guys about LinkedIn. 6 out of 10 users are actively looking for insights. So when we get to the content section, this is going to be really important to remember, and I'll bring this up again. But also that 3 million users are posting content on a weekly basis. So when we think about the total number, 750 million users on LinkedIn and only 3 million users posting content on a weekly basis, that allows for 9 billion impressions on that content. Completely unpaid ads. This is organic reach. And as a nonprofit who's looking to bring more awareness to, again, your mission, your vision, maybe events, getting donations, all those things, and through content, you have a far greater reach here on LinkedIn than you might on Facebook or Instagram. So I love sharing that information with you guys. And the reason being, and just so you know, LinkedIn's business model is much different than Instagram, Facebook, and all the other social platforms. The other social platforms rely on ad spend in order to get reach to clients, right? It's a pay-to-play business model. And so that's why you probably find if you are active on social sites, you have to do all the things, right? Reels, Instagram lives, carousel posts, constant creation, constantly showing up on these platforms. Whereas LinkedIn, it's not an ad-based business model. It's actually a subscription-based model. So most users on LinkedIn have premium, which is $60 a month. Other companies use LinkedIn for their recruiters, for their salespeople, Sales Navigator, LinkedIn Recruiter. These are expensive tools that companies are willing to invest in, and that's how LinkedIn makes their money. Now, you do not need to pay for LinkedIn Premium in order to be successful for your nonprofit. You can certainly have the free version, but because of that, it allows for so much more organic reach on the platform, which is good news. So the 3 topics I want to really cover with you guys today are the 3 things I feel really weave together well in order for you to create greater impact on the platform. The first one we're going to cover is your LinkedIn profile. The second we're going to talk about is content. Make sure you have that playbook. And the third is how to make connections. And that really is what bridges the gap between you and your ideal donors, board members, volunteers, and all of those things. So we're going to jump right into the LinkedIn profile. So networking on LinkedIn really starts with building out this ideal profile. There are 6 areas of your profile I want to cover that talk about really how to set up what I would call a winning profile. So the first thing, number 1, if you're taking notes, like I'm a type A, I take notes. The first one, number 1, is your LinkedIn profile photo. There are 2 things here on this. 1, we want to make sure your profile photo is of you. And I'm going to talk about a company page for your nonprofit in a second, but we really want to make sure that profile picture is of you. It's not a logo of your nonprofit or anything like that. It is of you. And that picture is pretty well zoomed in. Ideally, we want shoulders and above. Yes, there's some great headshots people might have, but we really want to make sure we're zooming in really of shoulders and above. We also want to make sure that that photo is no older than, or it's nothing beyond 12 months ago. So we always want to make sure we're updating that LinkedIn profile. No catfishing on LinkedIn. We want people to know that it is us, even through COVID. And then the last thing about your profile photo is we want to make sure that it is set to public. Your LinkedIn profile will have 21 times more views when you have a profile photo and that the profile photo is set to public. This can be done in your settings. There are 3 options you'll see in your settings when it comes to your profile photo. 1 is that your profile photo is only allowed to be seen by your network. The second option is only for LinkedIn users. The third one is set to public. And what that means is that if someone were to Google you, your LinkedIn profile might show up and your picture will show up there as well. We want that. We want as much exposure through LinkedIn for you and your nonprofit as much as we can. And that starts with having a public profile photo. All right, so
Hey,
that's number
Lindsay.
one.
Oh, sorry. There's
Yes,
someone in the chat that asked a really great question about photos, which is, does the photo color being color or black or white matter?
I would say have it color for sure. Great question. And actually, I should preface this. I will come. You're welcome, Elizabeth, or Elizabetta. I'm sorry, Elizabetta. I will come back. Let's put all your questions in the chat, and once I'm done with this section, I'll go back and answer if that works. Cool. I'll be like, I'm like a squirrel. So I'm like, what? Or a dog seeing a squirrel. So number one was the profile photo. Great question on black or white. Yes, definitely color is ideal. The second thing is your headline. The headline is that little sentence that follows you everywhere on LinkedIn. It follows your profile photo. It is truly the first impression that people have. The one thing we want to make sure with your headline is that we think about writing this in a search engine optimized keyword way. What do I mean by that? Your headline is, it's what SEOable. We want to make sure, yeah, these keywords are the ideal words that someone might be searching to find you or find your nonprofit. So that could be, and just help me out here. I mean, I don't know what like typical nonprofit terminology could be.
Yeah, so like, I mean, I don't even remember what mine says, but I think, I help nonprofits raise money in person and online. So words like coach, consultant, fundraising, nonprofit are all things that people might be searching when they're like, I need a fundraising coach or I need a fundraising consultant. But if you're a nonprofit leader or someone working in the medical space or even like the environmental space, you want to use words that people might Google to search to find whatever it is you all do.
Exactly. Absolutely, Jess. Thank you. So it's almost creating your headline in like chunks of these keywords. While the transformation statement, Jess, that you said, like I help nonprofits, that is great. And if you have room at the end, certainly leave that there. But really that line will do best in your about section, which we'll talk about. But it's really that headline space. You have 120 characters of prime real estate. So again, I go back to, if someone were to Google search some of these words, your LinkedIn profile can actually populate to the top of that search. So we want to keep that in mind as we're writing our headline. The other thing I love to tell people, and just as a friendly reminder, given that it is really the first impression people have of you, we just want to make sure that we're using these words wisely. And the other thing I mentioned too, with these keywords, we want to make sure we're saying words like consultant, specialist, expert. The average person is not searching for a nonprofit guru or a nonprofit ninja, right? We don't want to get creative. We want to make sure we're very clear. So clear over clever here. The other thing, again, how this is your first impression. For example, when you go to someone's LinkedIn profile and you start scrolling down their page, you'll see their picture and their headline follow you down the page. When you go into your feed, if someone leaves a comment or, as you see on people's posts, all you're going to see as, in addition to the comment, is their picture and their headline. When you reach out to somebody, when you reach out to a potential donor or a volunteer or a board member, when you send them a connection message, the message itself will not show up in their inbox. What does show up in their inbox is your picture and your headline. And the story I have for you about this is one time, gosh, a few weeks ago, someone reached out to me on LinkedIn and his profile picture was really weird. It was kind of like off center and it just already looked spammy. But his headline read, helping you get red hot mouth-watering leads. And that was really weird to me. That was very weird to me. I was super turned off. And that was the first impression I had of this person. I didn't even go into LinkedIn to read their message. I just knew I was not interested. And so that's why I want to make sure that, you guys think about that as you're writing that. I know no one here would create something like that, but just remember, it literally follows you everywhere, even off of LinkedIn. So that's number 2, that's the headline. Number 3 is your background banner photo. Now, most people have the stock photo there. Some people will have the skyline of the biggest city closest to them. Some people might also have maybe a photo of you speaking on stage, which is great. That shows thought leadership, of course. It shows that you're an authority here in the space. But one suggestion I have for you is, can you create a background banner photo that is more of like a billboard for your nonprofit? These are easy to make in Canva. If you're familiar with Canva, the dimensions are already in there for you. But how you could create something like this is, getting some of your brand colors, maybe putting something at the top in, I know Jess, you've got one. But I'll just share my screen really quick so you can see what I'm talking about here. Oops, Jess, I can share my screen. But you want to basically put like either a blurb about an upcoming event. Maybe in order to get people onto your newsletter, you've got some type of, download, a PDF, some white papers, some, journal entry, maybe a feature that you've done in some like big publication, whatever it might be, to get more exposure. And you want to share that with people. But in order for them to, get on your email list or something, right? And
you should be able to share your screen now.
Perfect. So I'll just give you an example of mine. I would love everyone to get the LinkedIn content playbook right now. It's not going to be available for long, so I want to make sure everyone gets it. So that's the thing that I'm kind of talking about here. And this is the link for someone to get it. Now, I will tell you, there's nothing you can click in this picture. But if someone really wanted to, they could go to a new URL tab and just type this in. I also have this Let's Connect button because we want to make sure we tell people what to do. People want to be told what to do. So as long as you've got this little button here that says Let's Connect and an arrow, it shows them, oh, she wants to connect, we should connect with her. Another thing you can also do, if maybe you've got some more information, you're putting like a quick quote or an interesting statistic, and maybe right here your line is like, read more in the about section, you can put an arrow down there, and that will help people scroll down to your about section. And this is what we're going to talk about next. But this is just another idea of something that's very on brand. You could create it in Canva. You can, and I suggest maybe switching this out every quarter, depending on what you're driving people to. Maybe you've got a big event you want people to register for, talk about that. Bringing awareness to something, a part of your nonprofit, talk about that. You can always switch this out as often as you'd like. Again, here's an example of my headline, but it's so many characters, so use them up. I definitely suggest avoid using emojis here because again, we're limiting the keywords for a Google search. Now, I'm all about emojis. I text the way I talk, with lots of enthusiasm and lots of exclamation points and emojis. So for sure, I've dropped that down into my about section. So the about section really is like a mini sales page for your nonprofit. And I want to give you guys, we're already talking in numbers, right? So number 1 is your profile photo. Number 2 is your headline. 3 is your background banner photo, your billboard. Number 4 is your about section. I'm going to switch over to letters because I want to give you an outline on how you can write a good about section for your profile. So A, we want to call out, now Jess help me because this is definitely geared more towards like finding an ideal client. And so this might be a little different for nonprofits, but maybe, so the structure of this is A, we want to call out our ideal client's biggest challenge. Maybe for you as a nonprofit, it's that you're trying to find people who are interested in joining a nonprofit where the mission aligns with them. And so, maybe.
Yeah, or I mean, people list their philanthropic participation in LinkedIn all the time if they're on boards or whatever. And so there is a way for people to like, people on LinkedIn are proud of their nonprofit participation. And so I think it can be a couple things. It can be people looking for certain causes that they want to get involved with. But like for me, I currently don't sit on any boards, and I am actively looking to join a board, but I want it to be the right one. But at the same time, I'm kind of surprised, and this is not an invitation for everyone to start inviting me to be on your board, because I know I have the fundraising chops that are very attractive in board members, but I'm surprised I like never get asked to be on a board. And so if the right nonprofit came along and like cultivated me to the point of that, I would be like, hell yeah. But you know what I'm saying? So, but I feel like unlike Facebook or unlike Instagram, there's no philanthropic billboard like there is on LinkedIn on a person's profile.
Sure. Sure. So for you, it could be like, well, not for you specifically, but if there is a nonprofit and really your guys' goal right now is to find board members, and you want to find board members that are aligned to your mission and your goals as the nonprofit, you could say, are you looking to be a board member focused and having impact in this area? And so that would be like your ideal client's biggest, like what keeps them up at night, or your ideal board member's biggest, like you're looking for something that challenge. The next line, so that was A. B, your next line is really, what is their biggest goal or desire? And you could say, if the goal for you is to find ideal board members, you could say, do you wish you could have greater impact on something that is bigger than yourself? You know, something like that, right? But you're really calling out, you're speaking to this ideal board member or donor or volunteers, like what's that thing that's going to resonate with them in their heart, right? So that's the second line. That's A, that's B. C, why you, why your nonprofit, why joining your mission, and all those things. That's what we want to talk about here. Now, we do kind of in a sales mindset, right? Because we're still kind of selling the idea to people. We want to make sure that we're writing this in a way that's really like what's in it for them. But we certainly want to give these people an idea of like who you are, what you're all about, why you started your nonprofit, you know, give them a little insight to you, because we want to make sure it certainly aligns across the board: mission, vision, goals, values. That's A, B, C. D, we want to talk more about your nonprofit. And so again, I talk really more about like the benefits and the features of a business, but if that applies to a nonprofit, like, okay, great. Jess, you're saying yes.
Yeah, like every nonprofit should have their unique special sauce. Like
Mhm.
there's 100 billion organizations that are trying to, you know, alleviate poverty or solve the climate crisis, or are trying to help single mothers, you know, have close the pay gap or whatever. What makes your nonprofit different than all the others out there? If
Sure.
you all don't know what that is about your organization, that is like priority numero uno, because it's really important to be able to differentiate yourself.
For sure. And you've got such a great point, Jess, because what I would say to like business owners is there's plenty of business owners who are coaches, but what makes you so special? So same thing with your nonprofit. What differentiates you in the industry or like the niche of nonprofits that you're in? Why would someone want to come on board with you, donate, all those things? And then the last, so that's A, B, C, D, E. The last one is your call to action. What is the next natural step you want someone to do? And there can actually be multiple calls to action on this part of your about section. Maybe it's that it just makes more sense, like, hey, you know, read the featured article below to learn even more about why we started this nonprofit and all those things. I actually think that's a really great idea. And I'm going to share my screen one more time and show you how that could look. Because when you put, right, so like I have download your free guide, okay, whatever. But you could say, check out the most recent featured article to learn more about our nonprofit. And featured, this, it's right here. So someone can click onto that article that talks all about more about your nonprofit, because there's a certain character limit here, so you can't go all out. But if someone really wants to learn more and read more, an article is a great way to go. We're going to talk more about that in content, but again, this is where all your calls to action will go. So if it's download this, join our email list here, send us an email if you're interested in becoming a board member or a volunteer, or you'd like to donate more, you know, but tell people like what it is. Don't contact us here. It's like, to donate more, email us at. Just be very specific in what that step is, and then be very clear on like where they can go. You'll put that all at the end of your about section. So A, calling out your ideal donor, board member, volunteers, you know, why they'd want to get involved. B, what would be like the biggest goal for them that they would achieve by joining your organization in whatever capacity. See why you personally, like what was the reason you started the nonprofit? Why are you involved specifically? It's not necessarily about like why your nonprofit, it's why you. Then A, B, C, D, what, like your nonprofit, like giving some benefits and features, like what makes you special, the secret sauce, as Jess said. And then E, all the calls to action. Now you could have one that's very clear, that's very specific, and that's great. You can have a couple if you want to get them over to a private Facebook group, another social platform, whatever, a website to check out more about your upcoming event, whatever you want to do. So that's the about section. So we'll go back. 1, profile photo. 2, headline. 3, background banner photo. 4, about section. 5 is your experience section. This is a great way for you to elaborate, especially if this is not your full-time job. You can absolutely feature, your nonprofit, your involvement, to whatever level or degree you're involved. And talk about really how you are serving the community, how you are serving people on the receiving end of this nonprofit. Like, what is your specific involvement? Because I would assume, as like someone who might be considering being a board member or someone who might be a donor, they're going to want to know, like, well, so what's your deal in this whole bit? Like, how are you involved and what do you do? It also might give someone an opportunity to say, hey, I noticed that you specifically, especially if you're like a one woman, one man show, it might give someone an opportunity like, hey, I noticed in your experience section, like you don't have anyone running like back-end operations for this particular event. Do you need help with that? It could allow for someone to see gaps like that. Maybe they can step in and volunteer. So you certainly could use this to your benefit. Now, previous experience section, if you're currently working, or maybe if this is your full-time gig, but you have previous experience you want to showcase, I always tell people, pull out the parallels that resonate to what you do now. Meaning, let's say you're a project manager in the past. All of those skill sets align to what you do today as a nonprofit owner, or what you do in your nonprofit for sure, right? There's always project management tasks going on. So just kind of pull those out and share that that's really where you learned all of those skills in your previous experience. And then the last one, so that's previous experience section. The last one, number 6, is recommendations. Now, I would have to figure out how this, well, yeah, I always say it's like Yelp for your business or Yelp for your nonprofit in a way. And this could be a great place for board members, volunteers. I mean, honestly, volunteers to showcase how amazing your organization is to work with, how awesome you are to work with. Because we know that like a volunteer army, it's an unpaid army. And there are certain expectations. There can be a lot of frustrations, right? Like, so if a volunteer has an incredible experience working with your organization, we certainly want to showcase that to get more people on board with being your volunteer. I mean, we probably all maybe once in our life had an experience where we were a volunteer and it was the worst experience. And obviously we want to do things out of the kindness of our heart. But if there was an even greater experience, we can get more people to come back and continuously volunteer. So that is a great place for you to showcase that. Same with board members. If board members want to talk about how awesome you are, how easy you are to work with, how incredible, you truly live out the mission and the vision that you have for your nonprofit, they can talk about that in a recommendation on your LinkedIn page. In summary, I always say that LinkedIn is like a mini sales page for you. We want to keep as much of what would sell you or your nonprofit all on this one page. For example, when you think about buying something online as a user, and if we have to click, okay, we're reading about what it is we're about to buy, and we have to click to a different page to purchase, and maybe we have to click somewhere else to get, we will start to lose interest with the more clicks we have. So with LinkedIn being like a one sales page kind of deal for you, it really helps minimize any frustration anyone would be coming to your page to read more about what you're about, again, recommendations and all the things. So that's kind of in summary of the profile. I'm going to just check the chat really quick. Were there any particular questions that?
Yes, there are. Okay, wait. Kelly wanted to know, would you write nonprofit? I think she's talking about in your header, like
Mhm.
using the word nonprofit. Yours was a great example, Lindsay, because you just had like keyword, 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 keyword. So I thought that was a really excellent example. So yeah, what's your advice on using the word nonprofit in your keyword?
Absolutely. I mean, you could say nonprofit owner, nonprofit specialist, nonprofit consultant, just depending on what you do with nonprofits. But even if you just want to have like a standalone nonprofit and then like the next thing,
Cool.
totally fine.
Cool. Then Seth asked, would you add something personal in a headline, like about a hobby?
I would not.
Great. I love just like these yes or no answers. Michelle wanted to, she said they use LinkedIn to spread awareness among institutional donors, which is like a foundation type of a
Okay.
donor, like a entity that their job is to give away money, or
Mhm.
corporate sponsors. Should our profile headline, mine and my staff's, reflect topics that are attractive to donors? For example, poverty alleviation, African women, etc.
Absolutely, because that also on the flip side, some of these sponsors might be searching in Google, like where can we find how to donate for African women? So absolutely, absolutely. Those are great keywords. Great question, Michelle. That's awesome.
Samantha was asking, should the organization's profile picture always be the logo? So she's talking not individuals, the organization.
Yes, that's a great question. Um, Absolutely. Actually, why don't I show you guys really quick how to make a company page and I'll show
Yeah.
you mine. Mine is not
Okay,
anything to
great.
boast about, but
Yeah.
something you guys can take a look at. And also, Casey, do all these tips for your personal page also apply to nonprofit? Okay, well, let's talk about company page. Sure of how much apply to my where's my works.
Yeah, I think there's some confusion on personal page versus company page.
Yes, let's talk about that because that is a great topic. So your personal profile, I will just tell you, LinkedIn will always prefer your personal profile over a company page, regardless of obviously the efforts that you have for a nonprofit. If you wanted to apply to go like live on LinkedIn, that's a great piece of content you could get into. You would always want to apply from your profile. Where LinkedIn is coming from on this is that people want to connect with people on LinkedIn. Even though obviously nonprofit, that's certainly something that we want to have people following your company page and all those things. Your personal profile is really where you're going to showcase your thoughts, thought leadership, which we'll talk about, you being an expert, you being very knowledgeable of what's going on within your niche of nonprofits. And all those things. So from a LinkedIn profile perspective, we want to talk about like, what is it that you content wise and that you're talking about? It's from your perspective. The company page, even if it's just you that's running your nonprofit, we want to talk in ways that are holistic nonprofit company. So like our CEO just came out with an amazing article about why da 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 da. It's linked here.
Mm.
Our newest event that's coming out, you just holistic nonprofit, our team, that's how you would talk. So let me share my screen. Let me go to a company page. Here's the other thing that LinkedIn has done research on, and this is why I strongly encourage you have a nonprofit company page, because what happens is LinkedIn has done the research that when a user comes to your profile, they'll check out your photo, look at your background banner photo, read your headline, scroll down, maybe read your about section, see if you have anything featured here. But the one thing that they do for sure is they look at, do you have a logo here? It's so silly, but how many times have you guys seen, or maybe you have it, where there's just something grayed out?
I literally do this all the time. And I'm like, oh, they're not professional if they don't have that logo. And
It delegitimizes the business to people, which we know is not necessarily true, but Jess, thank you for saying that. It's just like an automatic, like, oh, and that quick. It's that quick. So certainly put your logo here. When you click on that, people will click on it and go to the company page, look, and then jump back. And now, if there is interesting information, they'll hang out, they'll take a look. They can obviously follow. So I have right here, I changed this background, follow along, so people can click the follow button. But what you would, I mean, you guys, great things to post on a company page are event photos, team, like you can introduce your team. There's let me see. So here's a company page, and they have an about section written. They have their core beliefs, their mission statement written. Kind of, that's their home, their about section. It has the website. It has all these things that you can talk about. Specialties, you want to fill these in with all the keywords that you've got, if you're looking for donations, all those things you can put there. But posts, and there aren't any here, but images, you could have videos of events, or even videos of like introductions from each team member within your nonprofit, and like why that team member has joined the nonprofit, or videos of each board member, why they've joined your nonprofit. All articles posted from your company page will be posted here. Documents are a great way to showcase information within the industry, information within your niche, anything like that. That would be good content for a company page. But that's kind of, again, we're thinking more holistic nonprofit. Board members, volunteers, events, not so much just you. For you though, that's something we would go back to your profile. And it's all about like your thoughts. Yeah, I don't know. It's a little different, but these are my articles. These are my thoughts. I've written my content, all of that. Let me stop sharing and does that help? Let me just look at the chat. Love Jesse. Should it say, Kelly, are you asking like non-dash profit? Is that the specificity you're looking for? Or are you asking, should it only say nonprofit? And then Michaela, is there a frequency of how often we should be posting on our company page best practices? I would just go back to, if it was between your company page and your personal profile, Michaela, start with your personal profile. If you have the capacity to post on both, then great. Best practices could be 1 to 2 times a week for your company page just to get started. But my question would be do you have enough content to start posting consistently? Do you have the capacity to start posting consistently on your company page? If not, then maybe just get content from any events that you've done in the past or whatever, create some content there and maybe just post once a week or once every 2 weeks on the company page. But ideally, if you had to pick between the two, your personal profile or company page, you're posting more on your personal profile. No, just asking, Kelly, just asking, we should say we are a nonprofit. Yes, yes. How do you typically work and engage with nonprofits or for-profits as a consultant?
Maybe we should save that one for the end.
Yeah, let's save that one for the end. Okay, so now we're going to jump into content, which is like a great segue. We're already talking about content. This is good. So the one thing that I love kind of bringing high level first is this awareness of thought leadership. And so influence and awareness is going to come through your content. So we're going to talk about like knowing what to post, given that it's not the same as on other social sites, because people think of LinkedIn and they so closely tie it to thought leadership. So I'm going to just do like a quick, I'm trying to raise my desk here. But I want to share some numbers with you guys that it helps kind of make this concrete on how thought leadership numbers are closely tied to what I say sales, but again, sales is what we're talking about here with nonprofits, getting donations, getting volunteers, getting board members, okay? So write these 3 numbers down. 75, 8, and 50. 75, 8, and 50. So, and again, this is about buyers, but again, it's all the same, right? So 75% of buyers say that thought leadership helps them determine who they want to buy from now or in the future. I'll say it one more time and we're going to relate it to nonprofits. So 75% of buyers say that thought leadership is what helps them determine who they want to buy from now or in the future. Buying to me is also the same as donating money. So I would say 70%, to me, people that are considering donations are also thinking about, okay, who is top of mind? Thought leadership just means you have an expert, educated opinion on what's going on in the niche that you are in of nonprofits. You are educated in this, you're learning about this, you have an opinion on what's going on. You are top of mind for people around your particular topic of nonprofit.
Mhm.
That makes sense. That's all that is. You are top of mind. So when someone's thinking about, yeah, we need to, I mean, who knows? Hey, we need a tax write-off. What nonprofit should we donate to? Hey, we'd love to get more involved in a nonprofit. Which one should we donate to? Which one should we donate our time to? It's when you're showing up as a thought leader that you are top of mind for them is how this is going to play out.
Mhm.
So eight out of 10 buyers point to thought leadership as critical for determining which business, I would say, which nonprofit they want to learn from, right? We talked about if you're a nonprofit in a specific like niche, there's plenty of other nonprofits that are also supporting the same causes, but why you? What's your special sauce? 8 out of 10 buyers are pointing to thought leadership content as critical for determining which nonprofit they want to learn from. They want to trust you. They want to know that like you are doing the research. You are the ones that your boots on the ground, like you get it for what's going on with the mission and the vision that your nonprofit supports. And then the last one is almost 50% of business decision makers say that this type of content has directly led them to do business, give donations, or volunteer with another nonprofit, with another company, with another business. I'll say it one more time. Almost 50% of business decision makers say that thought leadership is what helps them this type of content has directly led them to do business with another business, nonprofit, etc.
Mhm.
This is key for us as nonprofit owners, because we want to get in front of business decision makers. Those are the people with deep pockets. These are the people that can donate more, all those things, right? Or even time. I even think about, and maybe Jess, I think about when we're talking about, donations from companies, it doesn't always necessarily mean money. Like maybe we just need a donation of volunteers, right? Like there are groups within a company that are willing to just like help put out 100 volunteers for an event or something like that.
Lindsay, can I ask a question that I'm sure is swirling around in people's heads a little bit? And maybe in the chat, you guys can tell me, are you guys the nonprofit founder or executive director, or are you an employee of the nonprofit? Because I have only ever been like a director of development. I've never been like a nonprofit founder or leader. And I guess I'm like from that seat thinking like, I don't know, like if I should really be the thought leader for our nonprofit where I'm just like an employee. And so I'm curious as to your response on that. And then if your response is like, maybe no, the focus really should be on the leader being the thought leader of the organization, then I want you guys to be thinking about this information as to how you can feed it to your executive director or founder, perhaps. How can you tee them up, perhaps? But I'd love your thoughts because it is looking like
Most are employees.
employee. We've got an executive director, employee. I know like Elizabeth is a founder. I know that Jennifer is a founder. We've got some other founders on here too. But yeah, I'm just kind of curious.
Perfect. And I'm glad you asked that, because I think as an employee, you absolutely can still be a thought leader. You are just as much a part of the team involved. You are just as important as attracting the right people into the volunteer side, into the donation side of a nonprofit. It is not just up to one person. And we know that, right? Like, that being a part of a nonprofit, like it takes a collective effort. And the more people out there that are thought leaders about what you do within your nonprofit, even as an employee, helps generate more awareness to the nonprofit that you work for. So
Okay.
absolutely, you can be a thought leader. I mean, think about it. I mean, anyone can be a thought leader. It's not just about being a leader. I guess I would just put this out there too. Like anyone that's an employee that says, yeah, I work for a nonprofit. Oh, if you're like at a dinner party or you're out with friends or whatever, and you're meeting someone for the first time, like, yeah, I work for a nonprofit. Oh, cool. What nonprofit? You talk about it, you give the mission. Wow. And if someone starts asking questions, you've got answers, right? Like, what the mission is. Maybe some interesting stats about, Jess, you brought up like single parents or single mothers. Like, you have an educated idea and thought and opinion about this because you're so heavily involved. You are still a thought leader. Absolutely.
I'll also just say, I think that, like, unless you plan to retire with your current organization, your thought leadership as a professional is going to be a really great tool whenever you decide you want to move on from your current job to a different nonprofit or whatever. I'm sure recruiters or hiring managers all pay attention to that type of thing. So if you are like the expert in fundraising or you're the expert in your nonprofit's niche, that all makes a difference too. Okay, I want to move on to content because I know we also want to talk about
Actions.
reaching out to folks too.
Yeah, wait, how are we doing on time?
Yeah,
Has it been an hour?
It's 10:50, so we've been chatting so much.
I'm so sorry, guys. I'm just so passionate about helping you guys. I can go over a little bit if you can, but it's all good. So yes, wrapping it up with content. So guys, the best type of content, you guys all have the playbook, correct? Because that's going to just, we can kind of move right on. But really, when we think about social media, the type of content that does well today might change 3-6 months from now. But I want to share the type of content that's truly doing well across the board on LinkedIn for the rest of 2021. So the first one is video. 66% of marketers on LinkedIn are going all in on video because they know it's a platform, right? We know that 3 million users share content, 9 billion impressions per week on this content. And so I'm throwing out a bunch of stats. 53% of business decision makers want to see video. That's the type of content they prefer. So video is where it's at. I recommend best practices here are 30 seconds, 2 minutes long. Add subtitles because not everybody has the sound on when they're watching video. So add subtitles. But ideas for video is how-tos, like how to get involved in a nonprofit, how you can, outside of donations or outside of volunteering your time, you can do little videos on that. You can do videos on like, here's what we did last month. Introducing your board members, like all these things, like that's type of content for videos that you can certainly use. The next one is LinkedIn polls. So I recommend doing a LinkedIn poll 2 to 3 times a week. If you're going to be active on the platform, these are great ways to get involved with your network and to start really generating engagement from your network. Now, LinkedIn polls, we want to make sure they are questions asked and answers and responses that relate or tie back to your nonprofit. So asking polls just to get engagement for no other reason than just to get engagement does you no good. It doesn't matter, right? So like asking, where do you want to go on vacation this summer? Has nothing to do with your nonprofit. I wouldn't ask that question. But whatever questions might generate responses, because we can see who responds to polls. I'm going to talk about this in connections. You can leverage that in order to send a connection message and connect with people. The third thing that does really well on LinkedIn is articles. Articles through and through will always do really well on LinkedIn. LinkedIn loves articles. Now, I talk about how you can repurpose like Instagram captions or Facebook posts into articles in that LinkedIn content playbook. But articles are great. You can feature them at the top of your profile, tell people in your about section to read this particular article to learn more about why we started our nonprofit. You can feature those on your company page, all of those things. So that would be kind of the 3 things on content, just to make this a little quick. But again, you'll get a lot in that content playbook. But let me just check questions. Seth, if you are published, had an article and journal, would you put that in the about me? I would put it in the about section for sure, because most people aren't paying attention to the accomplishments part. So put it in the about section. You can also reshare it to your profile and add it as a featured post. You could put both, Jess. Of course, you could put both. Like, there's nothing. I don't know that you actually can. Yeah, like I don't know about accomplishments. Try it and see, but most people aren't going to go that far on your profile. They're first going to read about it in your about section. So talk about it there if it's like a really big deal, and feature it as a featured piece of content in that section. Just so you know how you will feature any content you post or reshare. When you go, let me just show you guys because it's just important. I don't want you guys being like, oh my God, she said to feature it. I don't know how to do that. Here we go. When you go to your profile or you're on LinkedIn, you're going to click this little caret you're going to go down to posts and activity. Now, stay away from all activity. This is like literally anything you've commented or liked. You'll go to your articles or your posts, in fact, and any posts you want to feature. So Seth, you're going to go to that article. If they featured it on LinkedIn, like, hey, check out, Seth did this feature in our publication, go to that post, click the 3 dots at the top, and you're going to click feature to top of profile. And that's it. And that's when it'll show up based on how often you're featuring your stuff. What's the word I'm looking for? It's like by how recently you featured it. So there's that. All right, there's content. Quick questions on content.
I think we're
awesome.
Good.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's talk about connections. We want to get in front of and recruit, or volunteers, board members, donors, all the things, right? And so messaging and connecting is really how you can bridge that gap. It is not enough to post content and have a good profile. We have to bridge the gap. We have to reach out. And so to me, there are 3 ways to do this. One from like a hot lead approach, and then all the way to a cold message when you're searching for people. So again, do you see, make sure you see this okay. But if we're talking about from like a scale of hot to cold, warm to cold, we're going to talk about each really quick. So the hottest way, not the spiciest way, but the hottest way you would engage and you would connect with someone is based off of engagement in your feed. So how this works, how LinkedIn works, is you've got 1st, 2nd, and 3rd degree connections. This is what makes up your network. 1st degree connections are people that you are directly connected to. Jess and I are 1st degree connections, but maybe Jennifer and I are not directly connected. So Jennifer would be in my 2nd degree network. And maybe Jennifer is connected to Seth, and so Seth is in my 3rd degree. When I look in my feed, even though I have 1st degree connections, I can see what Jennifer posts and I can see what Seth posts because they're in my 2nd and 3rd degree connections. So because of that, these are not people in my connections, but I can engage on their content. So what do I recommend? Anyone you see that is not in your 1st degree connections, and you'll see a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd next to people's names, comment on their post, engage on their post. It gives you an automatic, easy way to send them a connection message. So if I see Jennifer's post and I comment on it, I connect with it, she now moves to my 1st degree, Seth moves to my 2nd degree, and that brings someone in Seth's world into my 3rd degree. So how it all works really is like, as we're growing these connections, we're getting more access to people we would likely not ever know or see. That's how LinkedIn works. Like, you can't just go searching names or searching job titles all the time and see everybody that's out there on LinkedIn. So that's how that works. It's through engagement of these 2nd and 3rd degree connections that you can send easy connection messages. Hey, Jennifer, I saw your post about your nonprofit. Oh my gosh, I'm super passionate about what you do. Would love to connect with you. Easy connection, right? So easy. So, and same thing for, sending a message to Seth. So then the warm way, I would suggest, is getting into LinkedIn groups. LinkedIn groups transcends all of this. When you're in LinkedIn groups with someone, it does not matter if someone is in your 3rd degree or outside of your 3rd degree network, you can connect with anybody in that group. And the easiest thing to tell someone that you want to connect with in a group is, hey, I see we're in the same LinkedIn group. Share something of value or share something you noticed. Would love to connect with you. Easy, right? It's the warmest way. It's a warm way. I'll have a connection message framework I'll share with you guys really quick too, but ideally it's just something maybe you have in common. You say their name. The LinkedIn group is the thing you have in common. Sign off. You have 300 characters in a connection message. So short, sweet, and to the point is really your best bet here. Now, cold there's nothing wrong with cold messaging on LinkedIn. Absolutely not. Especially if we're looking for donors, we're looking for volunteers, nothing wrong with it. But there's a way to search for these ideal people. So let's say that you want to target VPs in tech, right? So what I would do is I would go to the top of the search bar. Is everyone familiar with how to search, or should I share my screen on this? I could share my screen.
Yeah, maybe just for
quick share. All right. So what I would do is I would go to the top, and let's say I'm looking up VPs, and what will happen is, I would say vice president. And it will say vice president in jobs, people, or groups. I would click on people. And then let's say, again, I want to filter out companies. And I want to look at people at Microsoft and Google. You can add companies there too. Now, keep in mind, these are all people within my first, second, third degree network. So these are still going to bring up people I'm not first degree connected with. So Sunil is someone that I might want to connect with because I see he's a VP at Google. He's an ideal donor for what we do. So I would connect, I would add a note, and the framework here is that you want to put Sunil's name. You want to say something that you notice about him, or maybe something that you have in common. Hold on, I have this whole framework written out. So you guys can write this out. You want to use their name. Can you see that? Use their name. Mention something on Sunil's profile that you noticed, or maybe you read an article that you wrote or some type of content. Like let's let Sunil know we did a little bit of research, or add value in some way. Hey Sunil, I noticed that you're a VP at Google, and that we know that one of Google's core values is da 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 da, and that it aligns with your nonprofit or something, right? And that's actually what we do. And maybe you add just a little nugget of value. Then you want to state your intention for connecting. Why do you want to connect with Sunil? Saying that you guys have something in common or saying that you have connections in common is not going to cut it. Hey Sunil, you seem like you're one of you meet the criteria of being an ideal donor. I'd love to share more information with you about our nonprofit. I mean, let's be real. We just want to put it out there. State your intention. And then if you can, end it with a question. Would you be interested in me sending you my most recent article about why our nonprofit is so special to single parents? Looking forward to connecting. Again, you only have 300 connections, so use what you will wisely. I put checks next to obviously use his name, mention something that you notice on the profile, or add value, state your intention. Ideally, if you have room, end it with a question. Otherwise, just sign off. But that's a really great way to send a cold message. And I always go back to, again, you guys, I teach leads and sales on LinkedIn. It is a numbers game, and it's certainly a numbers game for you guys as well, right? It's a numbers game in getting donations, getting volunteers. And so the best thing we can do is just knowing that we put ourselves out there. We asked. It's always a no until we ask. And that's that. I can't guarantee that this is always going to work, but at least you're putting yourself out there, and you're standing out when you're sending connection messages. So many people just send requests without a message. Those can easily be declined. When you have a message, the person will likely read it before they accept or decline anyway.
So I know that we're a little bit over 11. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. It's totally fine. I feel like people could just latch onto you for another 30 minutes. So while we just kind of scan, or if you have a final question you want to ask Lindsay, go ahead and pop it in the chat, and we'll try and do this in the next couple of minutes just to get you all out of here. One of the things I wanted to say that's worked really well for me is timeliness of connecting. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, for example, across a lot of different sectors, from people in tech to holistic practitioners, all this stuff. And if I hear a guest like that I thought was awesome, and I'm like, oh, I really want to be connected to them, but like reaching out is absolutely cold, I will use that reference in my message, as Lindsay's just describing, if they're my second or third connection. So I will like say, I heard you on whatever, or I read about you in whatever, or like your post came up because I'm connected to so and so. And I'm just giving you some real life examples of what has worked well for me.
Yeah.
Um, because but it's the timeliness of that. And even if like the podcast or the article is old, but you just came across it, like it's okay to still say that. And that's just one thing that's worked really well for me, especially if it's the person who works at a company you're trying to get in touch with. Your ask could be, I see you work at Google, and you're aligned with the value of A, B, and C. Is there someone I could be put in touch with that would be great to talk about partnerships? Like that could be your request, and so then they take you on from there. Everyone is giving you lots of praise and thanks. Lindsay, do you have any kind of,
Thank you guys so much.
how can people get in touch with you? I've been tagging you all over my stories, but what's the
I love it. Yes.
work with you or get in touch with you?
Find me on Instagram, find me on LinkedIn. I mean, just find me and then we can connect there and chat. But certainly would love to connect with all of you. I'm so glad you guys were here today. Thank you for your time. It means the world. So go win, go build out these nonprofits and continue to, have greater impact on the world with what you guys are doing.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. Does anyone have any final questions for Lindsay before we hop off?
I will say one last thing.
Yes.
I had so much fun. Like I get nerdy on LinkedIn. Okay, let's get nerdy. I will connect with every author that I've ever read. Something came full circle for me with an author who just absolutely adored. And now we text each other. So like it can totally come full circle for you in getting in touch with like anyone you admire, anyone you look up to in business or nonprofit world, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I also will just say, because Seth just messaged me, and one little trick about LinkedIn too, you guys, if you're having trouble finding people's contact information, for whatever reason, people like openly share their personal email on LinkedIn. If you go to the like contact info, a lot of times there is like an actual email address. So if you're having trouble getting to the right person at a company, they usually put it there, and
You have to sign up with your email. So
it's there.
it's there.
Another little tricky tool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Lindsay. I know we were kind of rushed here at the end.
Okay.
I feel like audits, like profile page audits, are in our future. Maybe Lindsay's going to be joining us at the summit, which Raise More Together comes back at the end of August. If you haven't been, it is not to be missed, a virtual event all about fundraising. Lindsay will be back with more LinkedIn trainings. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Thank you so, so, so much. And one more time, if you didn't grab her download, make sure you grab it, because I did, and it looks amazing. I can't wait to dive into it.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Guys, have a good one. Bye.
Bye.